Everybody, how you doing out there? We're live from Open Studio. Thank you for joining us. And I want to open up and ask some people, where are you joining us from? I already see Becky. I see you're here from Ashland, Oregon. So shout out to Becky Kilburn for logging in. I see Yuta Furuyama from Japan, my favorite. I have not been back to Japan in a couple years. I love the whole country. So Yuta, thanks so much. I see, it looks like G Rithma. Greetings from Oakland, California. Federico Ciao from Padova. I love Padova, or I should say Padova, Italia. Federico Cassandro, what's up? Is it Thabalt or Tabalt? What's up from France? Okay. A Hafid from Mexico. Come on, even more people. We got a few more minutes. Tell us where you're from. We want to know where everybody is logging in from. I'm Ulysses Owens Jr. and I'm really excited to be presenting this show from the drummer's perspective. But we want to see who's out there and see who's tuning in with us every week. We focus primarily on incredible drummers that are artists that are really some of the greatest that have ever played and recorded in the industry, high-level artistry. And the goal is to study their lives and their careers so that it can help us to have the same thing. So please make sure that as you're tuning in, letting me know where you're from, if you have questions as well for me to ask specifically with Terry, who's with us today, feel free to drop it in the chat, and I'll make sure to let her know what you want to know from her. So let's see, we got Ian from Boston. I think that's a city very dear to Terry. We got Jonah from Boston as well. We got Eric from New Hampshire. Cool. Eric DuPont. Yeah, please let us know. I'm so excited. I see Dan. Dan Martin from Open Studio from St. Louis in the house. But anyway, I'm so glad to see everybody. And this week I see Dana Goodman from outside of Chicago. I got to get to Chicago, man. Jim from Montreal. Cool. Jim Brebner. We got a little bit more time if you want to let us know where you're from. Be great. Cool. For those that are new to Open Studio, please check out their website. They have an incredible amount of courses and information available from some of the, again, greatest artists from all over the world. And I love the platform and the way in which each artist teach and the things that have been curated for you to learn has been really incredible. Brandon Harris, I see you from St. Louis North Side. All right. Cool. T-Lock, greetings from Greensboro. I like Greensboro. I've been there. I actually played there with Mulgrew Miller many years ago at the University of Greensboro. That was really cool. Cool. So we're getting ready to get started. All right, Burke from Turkey. Oh man, I miss Istanbul. I need this all to be done with COVID so I can get back overseas and go to places like Istanbul. I love that town, country. It's a good vibe there. So please be, adding your questions and stuff like that to the comment section. I'm going to go ahead and get started because I want to make sure we have enough time to speak to Terri Lyne. And I just want to introduce her very quickly. She is someone that is just an incredible artist. I have to tell you, the first time I met her, I don't even know if she remembers, I had a chance to play the Red Sea Jazz Festival. It was actually right when I first started going on the road with Kurt Elling. And some kind of way, I think either her, I don't know if it was her cymbals that got lost or my cymbals that got lost. Maybe I think her cymbals. But either way, there was an issue with cymbals, and she and I were exchanging cymbals during that run. And I just remember being starstruck about, oh my God, like I'm like gonna get to even say two words to Terri Lyne, and because I've been seeing her in drum magazines for a year, obviously on Arsenio Hall show and doing all this like really killing stuff. So to be able to have an opportunity to see her in person, I was just nervous, and she was the sweetest and is the sweetest person that you will ever meet, and incredibly kind. But musically, she is a master. She is a master drummer. There's so many things I learned about. If you follow me on Instagram, I talk about how I really learned what it is to be musical and fluid as a drummer and musician from her playing. Also, she is a master producer, doing great things as a producer, also an educator. And I would say, before I bring her on, she's one of the first drummers that I got to see that really sort of, they say that being a mentor is the person that sort of opens up their lives and allow you to sort of, read from the pages of their lives as an example of what you desire to be. And I feel like, though Terry and I haven't had a chance to have a lot of conversations, she has literally opened up her life, like in terms of publicly, and you can see what she has become, and it inspires many others to become. And I would say she's the first person that I saw be more than a drummer. And everyone knows I'm very big into the idea of, yes, you got to play the drums, you got to seek to master the drums, but there are other things that we can do being a drummer. And to me, she set the precedence for it. And she's an incredible educator at Berkeley. She's also doing unbelievable advocacy work. So anyway, let's welcome the great TERRI LYNE CARRINGTON.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for that.
It's true, man. You're the real deal, and you're so humble.
Oh,
So
well, we all just here trying to make it through together and trying to do what we can. And I hope, we all are trying to leave a good imprint,
yeah.
For the next generations.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I wanted to kind of just start with your beginning on just like, obviously I've seen pictures even on your Instagram of you on the drums and videos and stuff. But what do you think for you was that first initial introduction to the music and to the instrument?
Wow, that's a really difficult one because I just remember always being there, always having the music, always being a part of it somehow because I started so young, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't really remember the early years so
Mm-hmm.
much. But I've been told what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But apparently, I sat in with Rasan, Roland Kurt, with
Whoa.
just playing the tambourine when I was 5, and
Wow.
then drums. Started playing them when I was 7, and sat in again with him and different people when they came through town, and Clark Terry eventually, and then
Mm-hmm.
he gave me my first professional gig when I was 10. And so I don't have a strong memory of the things before 10.
Wow.
Um, but it was just like the music was always there, and I'm very, very fortunate for that because my dad, he's a musician
Okay.
and he knew everybody,
Mm.
so he just uh, helped to give me access to the jazz stage, literally in the jazz
Wow.
community. So
Man, that's something else because in my research and preparing for this, I saw the stories about like Nat Adderley and how you played gigs with him as well when you were 14. I had no idea about the Clark Terry stint. So tell me, what is that like? You're 10 years old and you're playing with Clark Terry. Like, how do you know what to do?
I'm laughing because I was a guest first of all. Like he brought me to the
Okay.
Wichita Jazz
Oh,
Festival
nice.
as a guest, and the regular drummer for this all-star band was Louis Bellson, and Diane Reeves and I were guests. So
Wow.
that's when I first met her when I was 10.
Wow.
And you said, how do you know what to do? I had to laugh because when I think about that, what I do remember is my dad's telling me, now when Eddie Lockjaw Davis plays, you kick him in the ass.
Advice from dad, right? Wow.
And I knew what that meant.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So like
So
who taught you your first cymbal beat? I mean, you had these moments like you said with Rasan and different
mhm.
people, but who said, okay, this is a ride cymbal beat or this is how you hold the sticks? Like,
Yeah, my dad taught me the beginnings because he also
okay.
played drums. He played saxophone, but he also played
Wow.
drums, and his father was a drummer.
Okay.
So he passed away right before I was born,
Wow.
my grandfather, but his drums were in the house, and I still play to this day one of his cymbals.
Whoa.
Um, and then, I just think people believe different things, but I think it was either in the genes or in the spirit
Mm-hmm.
somehow, because I feel like I have a lot of his traits, at least I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
Just even the way I sit at the instrument And people said, she looks like Matt at the drums. His name was
Wow.
Matt Carrington. He was
Yeah.
roommates in college with Chu Berry, and he was a local drummer in Boston and got gigs like as a local drummer with Fats Waller and Duke Ellington, uh, Sammy Davis Jr. People when they would come through town.
Wow, wow. And so your father showed you some of that initial stuff. Who was probably one of the first formal drum teachers, or even like
Hmm.
one of the cats that may have embraced you and taught you some things?
Well, I had four formal drum teachers. One was a beginner's teacher that really, I think, had the patience and the things to keep my interest. His name was John Woolley.
Okay.
And then after that, the great Keith Copeland was my second teacher
Wow.
uh, for a few years. And then after that, a drummer named Tony Tedesco, who lives in New York. He used to teach at Berkeley. And he really helped me with reading and those kinds of things. He plays, Broadway plays and stuff like that. And then Alan Dawson
Right.
was my fourth teacher.
Right. Right.
So that was yeah. But I mean, all of the great masters,
Right.
I just was so fortunate because I mean, I go to New York, and when I started to drive to upstate New York to hang out with Jack DeJohnette, he became my
Right.
biggest mentor. I would drive up and visit Max Roach, stay at his house. Um, Different people encouraged me. It wasn't like they sat you down to a drum set, and
Right.
said,
Right.
"Try
Right.
this." That's
Right.
what the formal teachers were for.
Right.
But I don't think you really get it unless you're around some people that really know uh, the ins and outs of the instrument, of the business, of the music, and
Right.
all of those things. I just feel make you a better musician. You watch them and you feel close to them, and you're going to pick up on a lot of things. So that's why mentoring is so important,
Yes.
and so important to me, because I could not have all of those mentoring opportunities and not do the same.
No, it makes sense. And you bring up a lot of names that I tell people in the few episodes I've had a chance to create here at the Drummer's Perspective. There are a lot of just consistent names that keep coming up, in all the interviews. And I had Nasheed last week on, and he talked a lot about Max and different ones. And I always tell him that's kind of one of my only like regrets. Is nothing I can control. But by the time I got to New York, most of those guys were either really old or they just weren't around. So what are some levels of advice that you got specifically from the kit from like Max and Jack, and obviously I want to talk a little bit about Alan Dawson because he's one of the greatest drum teachers that ever lived. But what are some things that you feel okay sharing?
Uh, let's see. I remember once Jack, we were playing. I would play a lot with him at his house when he would play piano, and I
Wow.
would play drums. And I remember him telling me once, you don't have to play everything you hear. You don't have to repeat what I play. You don't have to, you know, let me know that you heard what I played. You can play something that complements it, that's not actually mimicking it or answering it directly. And yeah, that was real important for me to hear at that moment. I was, a teenager.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that, made my playing a bit more mature. Um, so that was one big thing. But most of the time, people didn't actually tell you things.
Right.
You
Right.
had to learn the
Yep.
old school ways.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
learn the
Yeah.
hard way.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, uh, I remember, something that was important for me that is not in a whole lot of, not in a lot of my interviews, is that Max tried to get me a record deal when I was, I think, 16, with Blue Note,
Wow.
and it didn't happen. And yeah, just I think it really kind of, made him angry. But they said that they were, going to do it, so he was going to produce me and, in his way, introduce me to the world, right? And so he had all these people lined up, like the A-list, like Freddie Hubbard, and
Oh my God.
like it was crazy. It was, beyond a dream come true. But it didn't happen. And so when I reflect back, so I've always been the type of person that when things don't happen, uh, I don't pay attention, I don't dwell on it. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
remember it. So that's why it's not been in a lot of my stories. But as I've gotten older and seen things a little differently, I can go back and reflect on some of the things that are very important to me. Just the fact that he tried is really important to me, but
Mm-hmm.
also the fact that Blue Note does not have a big history of women instrumentalists. So now I can't help but recognizing that as a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and, at that time, there were no other women, in the mainstream of jazz really
Mm-hmm.
leading on the
Mm-hmm.
drums.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just too much for people at that time in that world, in the industry world.
Wow, wow. That man, which I want to get so into that. um, and I'll just ask this one question. I feel like, based on the experiences you've been telling me, you seem like a superstar from the time you were a child. Like how, I mean, some of these experiences, like how have you maintained that ability to just kind of evolve? Because still, even though, okay, you didn't get the record deal, Max Roach was still making calls for you. So like, because you always seem to me so level-headed, and you seem like you have such a great vision for what you want to do. And I've been following your career for many years, but how have you maintained that when you obviously earned some really incredible opportunities very young? Like, how did you stay, focused, you know?
I just always have had that type of personality that I don't really deal with the past
Mm,
so much. I do as, of course, as a learning, and
yeah.
legacy and those things, but uh, I don't dwell on the past and all the things that have happened to me. They almost seem like another lifetime. Almost everything seems like another lifetime because I'm really focused on the present
Mm.
and the many things that I haven't done yet that I want to do. And I feel like I wasted a lot of time, when I was
What?
young. Yeah. Oh yeah.
How? I feel like you made a record every year of your life.
No, no. Are you kidding me? I went
Really?
about 15 years. I did a record
Real.
when I was 23,
Yeah.
and it was like, I don't know, something like 15 years before I
Wow.
made another one because I kept
Wow.
getting rejected. So see, that's the
That's
thing.
crazy.
Oh yeah, I sold 100,000 units and then kept getting rejected. So that's the thing that I learned. Like Quincy Jones once said, everybody talks about the whatever. I don't know. He has so many Grammys. I don't even, 60. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
something crazy. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
40. I don't know. But, he said something like everybody, talks about the 40 Grammys I have or 60 Grammys I have, but they don't know about the 100 that I didn't get, like
Mm-hmm.
the other side of that.
Right. Right. Right.
So I think that, uh, that philosophically is what a lot of us are dealing with, because of course people only know about the successes,
Right. Right.
but there's so many things that you know man, I mean, I couldn't get arrested before I invested in myself, and I think
Oh
that's
wow.
the most important piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
When I did this record for a European label, Act
Mm-hmm.
Music,
Yeah. I know
um,
them.
it's called Jazz is a Spirit. And
Yeah.
how I did that was just, I didn't have, a lot of money then to make a record, but I got some spec time at a studio. A friend of
Mm.
mine owned a studio, and I got Herbie to play on it because I was playing with him at the time, and I had to make a trade. I couldn't really afford him, but I said I'll play for free, for a week, on tour or whatever,
Whoa.
you need me to do.
Yeah.
And use frequent flyer miles, to get a few musicians from the East Coast, Gary Thomas and
Yeah.
Paul Bollenbeck out west, and Bob Hurst was
Mm-hmm.
living in LA, and he's actually the one that said, "Why don't you just make a record and I'll play for free. Just pay me when you put it out, when you get some kind of deal." And so that kind of support and desire to do something and not have to have permission from a label was the thing that kind of put me back on track as a leader, basically.
Man, you're saying so many different things that are such life lessons. So I just want to try to dig deeper into a few of them. The first thing you talked about was how you felt you didn't have certain opportunities. And I wanted to ask, I felt this way even as a drummer. Do you think there is a sense of bias from record companies or promoters for drummer band leaders?
Yeah, I do. I think there's always an assumption, for the most part, that we don't know as much music. You
Why?
know,
Like, why do you think that is?
because we don't play technically a melodic instrument. We know it's a melodic instrument in some ways, of course, but
Right.
we there's a lot of great drummers in the past that didn't write any music.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great drummers that didn't read, um, and I think that kind of legacy, which also when it comes to the drums, sometimes it feels like uh, there's all these inherent biases
It is.
that also can be attributed to just the origin of the instrument. And these are all things that we're coming to grips with in society
Right.
right now, and dealing with our inherent biases. So I think there's some of that in it. In today's day and time, I don't think there's as much of that going on. But I think you have to remember, I started in the '80s, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think there was a lot of that, and uh, and then just the fact for me, I mean, I heard you were talking about the drummer bias, but for me, that coupled with um, being a woman,
Right.
uh, that that the young lions of the time, there were no real women considered that, and the women that really got through in general mostly played piano. So we're talking about instruments that have been gendered.
Wow. And then with that, which I love so much because I have students talking a lot about, their frustration with not being signed by a record label and all that. And to hear, especially now looking at your career, how you have, it seems like you have a lot of support from labels. But to hear you say you even invested your own money and did whatever had to be done to get the right people together to put a product out there. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because I feel like this new generation is still kind of waiting on kind of the golden days. But
Mm.
looking at the career you've built now, can you talk just a little bit more about like what you had to work on internally to have the courage to say, I'm going to invest in this or
Mhm.
invest in yourself, as you said? You know?
Yeah, I think it's knowing that, coming to an understanding within yourself and doing research and work. Nothing just comes, like out of the sky, right? So you have to do the work, whether it's if you're at a university, or if you're not and you're reading books. There's so many things you have to learn and understand about the industry first of all. If not, you won't have the confidence to take things into your own hands. And I remember being inspired actually by Max Roach talking about hip hop, and him saying, he really loved what the hip hop musicians were doing because they owned their own masters. They controlled their business. And he told a story about how he had asked Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie to start a label, with him, and how basically if we had this major jazz label, we won't have to go to these other people to make records, and why shouldn't we control, our own records, our own music, and our destiny? And they didn't do it, but he was always of that mindset.
Right.
And so just having something like that alone in the back of my head, it gives you, and also just being around, people that were doing it in their own way. Some people start their own labels, or some people definitely, I was around a lot of band leaders, and seeing how all of that worked, but kind of not always having the confidence until a bit later that I could do it myself. Because we always buy into the fact that people have created this system and have made themselves gatekeepers.
Yep.
So, it's easy to buy into that because, as I said, I'm, little older than you, so it's
Yeah.
really easy for me to buy into it then because that's all I saw.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, I do think hip hop made a difference.
Yeah.
That mindset, and um, I feel like now it's a whole different story. Most
Yeah.
people really do understand. I don't think there is a golden age coming back, well, the
Mm-hmm.
golden days
Yeah. Right.
coming back. I feel like everybody, really needs to. I mean, my last record, I had some help, somebody, like, an investor that helped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not saying it didn't pay for all of it, but they helped
Okay.
my last couple of records. But um, somebody just believed,
Mm-hmm.
in the products, and a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I still spent, quite a bit of money, on them. And my goal this time around was, I didn't want to even have to deal with licensing,
Yeah.
like for a fee. And I said I would feel like a great sense of, I don't know, freedom, a liberation, if I can give my record, basically, just say whatever money you're going to give me as an advance,
Mm-hmm.
put into the record, instead, put into the marketing and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty much able to do that this
Mm-hmm.
last time around, which was very liberating, actually.
Man, it's you're teaching a lot of lessons. I want to ask you about what do you identify as in terms of a musician because you're so versatile. Do you identify as a jazz drummer or do you just consider yourself a musician? Because I feel like you are one of the rare drummers that I'm like I hear you playing with Herbie and you playing this way. I hear you playing with this person and you can swinging your butt off. Then I hear you on the stuff with Diane and you grooving so in such an amazing way. So do you have sort of a way that you refer to yourself from the drumming perspective?
Um, well, it's interesting because I went, when I was living in LA, I went many years um, saying I'm not a jazz musician. I'm just a musician, and
Hmm.
I love everything. And
Mm-hmm.
and then one day my dad said, you can't run away from who you are.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. And the more I look at it, no, I am a jazz musician. We can now argue over the word, and
Mm-hmm.
people don't like that word. And uh, I do think it's great, that you can name your own music, and
Yeah.
not let jazz feel like a box
Mm-hmm.
to you. But if I define jazz, it may not be the same definition as somebody else uses, And when I did this album, Money Jungle,
Mm-hmm.
Provocative and Blue, I did a lot of reading, about Duke Ellington, and he said jazz just means freedom of expression. So I like that definition
Mm-hmm.
of jazz because for me it is where I come from, and I cannot change that, nor would I
Mm-hmm.
want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel, that I can claim that freedom to
Mm-hmm.
express myself however I want. And I don't really look at it like a drummer. I just say, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
I mean, I happen to play the drums, yeah,
Right.
but it's not, I think around 18, I gave up on, being this great drummer, like when you're a
Really?
kid. Yeah. When you're a kid, your goals to be, you focus on something. So, as a kid, I'm like, I want to be one of the greatest drummers that ever lived.
And
And
you
that was
are.
in my brain. But if people feel that way, that's cool. But I think that it's not up to us to
Right.
define that, and, and,
Right.
and other people define that, and you'll see how it all goes down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the
Right.
um, the truth always comes out, whether there or a universal truth,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So I don't know. I got so many things that I'm trying to do. I don't know how, at the end of the day, what my legacy will be. The drums
Absolutely.
is definitely part of it, but my identity does not lie in the instrument. I'm not attached to the instrument. I don't. I'm not a. I don't. I love music more
Mm-hmm.
than I love the drums.
Well, as Maya Angelou says, we don't get to choose our own legacy. That gets chosen for us based on the impact. So I totally dig into that. From a nerdy drum perspective, I do want to ask you: did you split your time of in terms of shedding? Because to me, you, as you know, teaching jazz drums and all the work you've done through the years, sometimes we can get pigeonholed like to really really learn swing. You know, you dedicate to that, and then you know if you want to learn groove stuff, you dedicate yourself to that, and then you know you've done all this like high profile work in LA and all these different places. So you know, did you make or sort of create conscious time to study those different styles? Like, you know, could you take us a little bit into that process, or you just always had that ability to play everything well?
I didn't do enough of what you're saying. I should have done way more. I've never been a great. I've never been heavily disciplined. You know, so my practice routines have not been good since I got out of high school.
Interesting.
For some reason, back then I had this routine of coming home from school, watching some soap operas and practicing. uh, and I normally often took the weekends off, and that was the last time I actually had a routine. And if I had been more disciplined and practiced more, I probably would have reached a lot more goals on the instrument. But um, the one thing that for me is always important is to identify, like within a genre, the important elements, to a degree, and play like, with your whole being, your heart inside of that genre, if you love it, if you
Mm-hmm.
love the music. So I'm probably not very good at music that I don't love. So for
Mm,
me, if I'm playing groove music, I mean, I love R&B. Um, I'm not a gospel drummer, so I'm probably
okay.
not going to sound good playing. I never played in the church,
Wow.
so I'm not probably going to sound good at that. I do love it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a whole lineage there that I've just not been a part of.
Right. Right.
Um, and uh, which a lot of the hip hop drumming comes from that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like, old school R&B when it comes to groove, and I love just like vintage rock,
Mm-hmm.
just Led Zeppelin and just,
Yeah.
just the old school British rock. So I feel like, if I have opportunity to play some of that stuff, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I may not play it like the people that's all they do and that grew up doing
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the different areas of jazz, but I will also say that I've always loved Afro Caribbean or Afro,
Yeah.
uh, or Latin jazz,
Right.
and I don't feel like I felt comfortable playing that really until I was about 40, and
Whoa.
yeah, and something just clicked,
Mm-hmm.
around that time after listening and playing with a lot of people, Daniela Perez and
Mm-hmm.
um, I did do one gig with Gonzalo.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, some other people too. But for the most part, I didn't have a whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
experience with just kind of the traditions,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was of course hybrid. And but then started feeling comfortable with the language enough to be able to play it my way or my interpretation of it, and
Mm-hmm.
not feel, like I would get arrested.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Which we know there's always a jazz policeman or a police
Or the
person waiting.
Cuban police.
Yeah, right. Exactly. With that said, your tuning, your setup, the symbols you use. I feel like you kind of have this sort of general way that you like. I haven't seen you change your setup a lot. So can you maybe unpack that a little bit for us? How did you arrive at having obviously you got the ride cymbal here, but the two tom setup. You seem like you have a bigger kit. I haven't seen you play like a traditional like 4-piece kit often. I don't know if you started
Mhm,
that way, but you know like can
mhm,
you kind of let us into like how did you arrive at like that sound or that perspective, which seems pretty
mhm.
consistent throughout your career.
Yeah, that's funny because I like my first kit was kind of a mismatch kit of my grandfather's, but then when I was 11, I got an endorsement
At
with Sling.
11.
Yeah, uh, with Slingerland, but Buddy Rich got me the endorsement, so he told him to send me his kit. So, I guess I always had larger drums. Always had a
Yeah.
20-inch bass drum, opposed to an 18. And that's probably just why I've stayed that way in some regard. But I do like 18s, and I do record
Mm-hmm.
with them. So my last, not the past social science album, but the Money Jungle and the Mosaic Project,
Mm-hmm.
those were 18s.
Oh, nice.
And I had somebody, Colin Stranahan, actually
Oh, yeah.
come, yeah, bring me his drums to the studio, and I asked him to just bring his drums and tune them. And I had worked with him some in the Monk Institute,
Yeah.
uh, and then he moved to New York, so
Mm-hmm.
he brought them for both of those sessions, and I didn't touch them. I didn't tune them because I
Wow.
wanted to have a different sound, and I think my
Yeah.
ears started getting. Even to this day, I try to tune higher sometimes, but
Yeah.
my ears just always go to a lower sound.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to strike that balance, and then it also depends on the music, right?
Yeah.
So.
I just remember in the drum magazines, being this young kid in Florida and seeing you. And I remember, I think it was the Yamaha Beach Custom. I felt like like they had ads or something like with you. It was like a new kind of wood or something they came out with. And I remember, always just seeing you, obviously with Yamaha drums, but like it was always kind of these bigger kits. And
Yeah, I never played Beach Custom.
really,
But
okay,
it might have been Maple Custom. That's pretty
okay,
much, yeah, what I
yeah,
played for the most part.
okay,
Um, and uh, I started endorsing Yamaha at 18,
wow,
but from 11 to 18, it was Slingerland.
okay.
Um,
That's crazy that you said Buddy called for you. So you had a relationship with Buddy Rich.
yeah, he introduced me to the world. He introduced me on the To Tell the Truth show,
Mm.
and yeah, we had a good relationship, but it started kind of funny because I met him at that same festival
Mm-hmm.
that I spoke of with Clark, that Clark brought
Mm-hmm.
me to. Buddy
Mm-hmm.
was playing as well. And I was, young, and I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to meet him. And they said, he's in a bad mood. His flight was delayed. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
should wait. And I was like, no, I mean, he's standing right there. I want to meet
Yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah.
I was confident in a way, I guess, for a
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old, but not like too precocious, I don't think. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so when I went to meet him, and they said, "Well, this is young Terry. She's a guest with Clark Terry," and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Oh, yeah, well, you better not be any good." And I said, my natural instinct
Uh-huh.
was to say, "Well, who's going to stop me?"
Are you?
And then he was like, "Hey, kid, why don't you come over here and play with my band?" You know,
Wow.
and so then we had to say no because Clark brought me there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. It wouldn't have been cool to
Right.
play with Buddy's band. you know. Then he came to Boston shortly after
Uh-huh.
that, and we went to see him, and he asked me to sit in with his band, and I
Mm-hmm.
played Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
uh, chart of his,
Mm-hmm.
and he sat right, next to the drums and watched me,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, I got a cymbal endorsement with Zildjian and a drum endorsement from
Wow.
that experience.
Wow. One of our audience members that's watching, Dan Martin, he asked, "Is that video that you talked about of To Tell the Truth, is that available?"
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at a hard drive right now.
Okay.
I think it's on there. I had it on a beta tape. This was before
Wow.
VHS.
Yeah.
But there's I think there's a little clip of it on YouTube. I did an EPK
Mm-hmm.
for an album I did called More to Say,
Mm-hmm.
and in that EPK there's a clip
Mm.
of this To Tell the Truth show.
Okay.
But if I can, digitize it, or maybe it's
Yeah.
been digitized, I'll post it or something. But
Wow. No, that's cool. So when you started becoming a band leader, how did you create the musical vision for what you wanted to say? Because you were talking about obviously the record with Bob and all those guys, but I remember even seeing the clip from you on Arsenio, playing your music with Paul Jackson and those cats. Like, so how did you come up with this vision of like, this is what I want my first band to sound like, even though obviously it's changed through the years, you know?
well, when I did the first record you're speaking of, in 19, made it in 1988. Uh, I was playing with David Sanborn at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and had also been playing with Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was more into, like, just because that's what I was doing, more
Right.
fusion kind of stuff at the time. And um, I had been writing some songs over the years, and just decided to do an electric um,
Mm-hmm.
jazz record because that's kind of what I was playing. Um, so it came out on Verve Forecast, which was their more contemporary, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was nominated um, in a contemporary jazz
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, category. But it was amazing. It was great because it was nominated. I knew I wasn't going to win because it was nominated against Miles Davis and Pat
Woo!
Metheny
Oh my
and
God.
Larry Carlton and John
Right.
Patitucci.
Right.
So, but just to be nominated in that category, it was a great send off, for a
Mm-hmm.
debut album. And I thought at that point, I was 23, and I thought, well, this will come again. This will
Mm-hmm.
happen again. And then after that album, just different reasons, I couldn't get arrested. Didn't make another album for like, a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time period, I made a lot of demos,
Mm-hmm.
and I went through different uh, styles, mostly jazz related, of course. Well,
Mm-hmm.
actually, some of them weren't,
Okay.
but I was trying to sing too,
Yeah.
and it was just different things I was trying to do, and but somehow I think I eventually honed in uh, to something I think more with the Mosaic Project.
Yeah. I love that record.
It felt like a more consistent sound because everybody
Yeah.
used to say that I was all over the place. So
Yeah.
I just got that a lot. So
Yeah.
and I remember one day out on tour, there were these live under the sky Japanese tours, and I was playing with Wayne for one and David Sanborn for another, but I can't remember which one. But Miles Davis he was on both of them, and then Pat Metheny. And I remember having some ramen noodles with Pat, and him saying, like when you really figure out how to put all those things that you can do, into basically, I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
when you can focus and put them all into one thing, and the jazz, the groove, the writing, the singing, everything into one thing is really going to be great.
Wow.
And I don't feel like I did that until the Mosaic Project.
So what was that process like that led you to? Because I feel like I've gone through that too. Because you have so many things you love and you work with so many people. So what was that process that helped you to focus? Like in terms of repertoire or selecting the right personnel. Like what was the journey to building sort of this place where you could be all of yourself? You know.
Well, one, being told constantly
Mm-hmm.
that you need to,
Yeah.
that's the kind of business we're in.
Yep.
And so then you can just keep doing things your way, but do you want people to know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and starting just to understand that more, understand the business more, uh, understand production more, understand the listening experience more, like wanting to hear something that has some kind of consistency or some kind of gel, between all the pieces or the musicians. Even if you have a lot of different things going on,
Mm-hmm.
how can you do it in a way that just makes sense and
Mm-hmm.
sounds like it's all supposed to be together.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I've gotten from when I listen to your records and even your work as a producer, which I started producing like years ago. I feel like when I listen to your work, it has like, first of all, the quality is high, obviously, but it has like a sound, and it's like a direction. And I always wanted to know like who, or did you ever have like producer mentors or like music director mentors? Because I feel like when I know you're going to be part of something, I'm like, all right, it's going to win a Grammy and it's going to be killing, because I just feel like you have that touch and you know how to bring that out of every artist you work with, obviously including yourself. So music producer, music director, like where did that journey start for you and learning?
Mm. Yeah, it's funny. I list George Duke
Woof.
as a mentor, a producer mentor,
Hmm.
definitely, and there's other people too. Even Quincy Jones, kind of by a distance, because I've never been in the studio with him.
Oh wow.
Though he was the executive producer of the Vibe TV show, so I've been in a
Mm-hmm.
television studio with
Right.
him, but not in a music studio,
Mm-hmm.
but just through people that work with him and just picking up what I can and just watching what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of a mentor in a way as well. But George Duke I really worked with in the
Mm-hmm.
studio and learned a lot from. Um, and he was just super special. And he was a person kind of like Herbie in the sense that plays all these different genres and
Mm-hmm.
made it work.
Yeah.
You know, everybody can't do it, and everybody doesn't do it as well as George did, and
Mm-hmm.
even Herbie too. So they were both kind of mentors for me in looking at the possibilities
Mm-hmm.
of stretching yourself
Mm-hmm.
and growing and doing different things and making other people okay with that, and doing it on a high level
Right.
so
Right.
that there's no denying, the quality
Right.
of it. And as far as MD work, the first show I MD'd was about um, 16 or 17 years ago
Mm.
in London at the Barbican. It was called Billy and Me. It was a Billie
Wow.
Holiday show, and uh, yeah, and that's when I got the bug. Like, it was a little daunting to do it because I
Okay.
hadn't done it, but I've been around some great MDs,
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like I could do it. And
Yeah.
it was one of those moving parts shows. The guests were Amy Winehouse,
Woo.
Michelle and Ocello, Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders,
Wow.
Nina Cherry, Layla Hathaway, Angelique Kidjo. Uh, who am I missing? Fontella Bass. Man, there was a lot of people.
And this is your first. This is your first music directing gig.
Yeah, first time.
S- s-
So
How did?
I kind of
Oh,
got
go
the
go ahead.
bug for that. No, it's
Yeah.
okay. I just kind of got the bug for it. And you're right. Music directing and producing are very similar.
Yeah.
But I love and always loved producing and just being in the studio because I
Yeah.
was always contributing to other people's records
Right.
until they told me to stop. Like, okay, okay.
You were that drummer in the studio.
Well, I try not to be,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking of one specific time when somebody actually did tell me to like chill. But somebody I was close to, so I think I thought I could, you know, give them all of my opinions and ideas. But then I grew, to learn how to do that
Mm.
in a way. I would never want to be, too forceful or anything like that,
Right.
or what's the word I'm looking for? Um, just obstruct anything that's happening. I wanted to
Mm.
always just do it in a way that it could be heard. And there's an art to that, to
Right.
have
Right.
people hear you
Right.
and knowing the timing and when to do it and how to do it and how to speak to folks.
Right. Right.
Um, and if it's with respect and love, and you're really putting the music first
Right. Right. Right.
and not yourself,
Right.
um, then I think people can hear you.
Specifically with music directing and all that, and producing, how did you, especially for that first gig, how did you show up and fight the kind of, oh wow, she's obviously, you're great and you have a name, but you're the drummer, and people respecting you? Like, did you ever have a little bit of strain or tension between, like, maybe some people obviously knew who you were, or others saying, why isn't the pianist the music director? Like, have you ever dealt with any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, sure. I'm sure I've not gotten a lot of calls
Wow.
just because of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is okay because I've gotten enough calls and I stay
Right.
busy. So,
Right.
but some of that next level, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, stuff, and I'll see something, I'll see some things that I think I could have maybe done a better job,
Mm-hmm.
but um, that's when you start to deal with those things, and it's not just it's being a drummer as well as being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things are part of it. So um, yeah, you just kind of. I mean, I think the universe unfolds as it should, and
Absolutely.
I have no real regrets or complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've to this day, to this point, I've had such a rich um, career, doing a lot of things. So when one door closes, another one opens, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I just kind of go with the flow, and I always have a lot of ideas.
Hmm.
So there's always something for me to do,
Right, right,
to
right, right.
focus on.
Right. I've heard you talk about this theme a lot during our talk, and I kind of wanted to save it towards the end because I know you probably have a lot to say about it. But you being an incredible musician and also a woman, and also seeing the scene change, and even more people being held accountable in certain ways. What do you want to share about whether it's your experience or just being a woman in jazz, and being a woman in the music industry, and in any anything you want to share about that, and some of whether it's the challenges, or do you feel things are changing in the positive or for the positive?
Oh yeah, I do. Absolutely. I think anybody that's in tune and teaches, you're seeing that in this generation. It's so, I'm so optimistic. It's so beautiful to see that the young people know more. They
Mm,
know more than me. They know more than you know the generations above them, and we have to look to them as the leaders.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And any great leader will tell you that.
Right.
uh, and it doesn't have to just be in music. I do think music and jazz and music in general, I guess, has been a bit backwards, or
Mm-hmm.
not backwards, but just less progressive
Yes.
with those things, because there's no other. There's just not that many uh, industries or professions that have maybe 15%, 20% women
Mm-hmm.
involved, on that, in general, not just on the top, but in the middle and on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what needs to happen for the music to really reach its full potential. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have gender equity on all levels.
Right.
So we don't know. There's so much that we don't know about our future
Right. Right.
until those things happen. So it's very exciting. But I definitely um, see a trend, and I see people coming, to an awakening,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding why it's important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting, and I rather dwell on that than the
Right.
part of me that gets upset about it, because that
Right.
happens too. But
Right.
today, I'm feeling real positive
Yeah.
because that's really where I like to live.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, once you get angry about something, uh, that's when I think you're fueled to
Mm-hmm.
really do the work. Because I
Yeah.
wasn't angry about it before. I just kind of went along with the program.
Right.
And it's only been, like the last, I don't know, like 6 years or so that I really, put the brakes on and was like, what am I doing?
Wow.
What is my mission here? Like,
Yeah.
what's important to me?
Yeah.
And I just, face those things within myself, because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, I mean, you have to look at how you're contributing to a
Mm-hmm.
problem, how you're participating
Mm-hmm.
uh, and contributing to, gender or racial inequality, like what is
Absolutely.
your role,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I
So,
noticed that in particularly looking at your Instagram page and researching you have, even in addition to all the musical things you're doing, like I don't know how you sleep at night because you have so much stuff you seem like you're doing, but you're also now embracing some humanitarian things, like I saw like some advocacy, and how are you balancing all of that? Because obviously it seems like your mission has elevated to your point of you're now really trying to, not just play music but also lend your voice. I see you're sitting on certain panels as well. So like, how are you finding the balance, and as you're still
mm,
growing musically, but by also kind of getting off the kit and sitting in other rooms to advance certain issues?
yeah, that's the critical problem that I'm dealing with at the moment. My hands are not responding well. My hands are not my own right now, and the pandemic really didn't help,
Okay.
because at least before the pandemic, even if I wasn't practicing, I had enough gigs that I felt like I could kind of keep my chops up to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
now it's just it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make some decisions. I either keep going down this path, which is incredibly exciting to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, or I figure out a way to practice
Mm-hmm.
and try to get, my hands back so I don't really embarrass myself when I play, which has been happening.
Oh, what? I'm certain that ain't
So
happening.
no, seriously, something's got to give. So right now, the drumming is
Okay.
part of the problem. Part of what's knocking on the door, saying, "Okay, what are you gonna do here?"
Mm. Wow.
But you start finding other things. I say that, and what I said is real. But you do start finding other things within your own musicality. So
Mm-hmm.
if I can't do what I could do 10 years ago, or in this case, even
Mm.
2 years ago. um, I find another musicality that
Mm.
I do something else. I look for some other things that that I can accomplish that
Mm.
bring whatever I am to this at this day,
Yeah.
whatever that is, bring that to the table,
Wow.
and I try to do that in a way that So I'm trying not to expect right at
Yeah.
the moment myself to sound like I did before.
Okay.
Rufus Reed, he just sent me a recording of something I played with him, when I was in my early 20s.
Mm.
And I was laughing listening to it. I was like, oh my God, I can't even play this fast anymore. It
Wow.
was hilarious.
Wow.
And then I remember once reading an article, somebody said she had more fire when she was, 18 than she does now. And I
Mm.
use that as, after like my feelings being hurt for 2 seconds, I use that as incentive, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I was like, yeah, well, the story's not over yet.
Right. 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 With your position at Berkeley, what are you? Because one of the audience members, Michael Fox, asked about social justice, and obviously, I know your program is that's what it's about amongst many other things. Like, what are you seeking to give to this next generation? Like what do you want to leave them with?
I mean, I'm just going day to day. I'm
Hmm.
growing and going day to day. Uh, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
If I had that as a goal, that would be limiting.
Ah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, I'm just paying attention. That's all I want to do.
Woo. Wow.
Just pay attention uh, to everything going on around me and do what's right in any given moment.
Mm.
You
Wow.
know.
Wow. Wow. That's so beautiful. Before I let you go, what do you have coming up? Do you want to tell us about, obviously this last killing record, which you got my boy Casa Overall on and Aaron Parks and stuff. But anything that's coming up for you or anything you want to talk about with your, most recent projects, anything you want to share with us, be great.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a lot of different things. I mean, so I don't even really know where to begin with that. And some things, aren't really announced yet.
Okay.
But I can say, well, social science. We're going to go back in the
Right.
studio.
Nice.
I'm doing through the institute, curating a book of 101 compositions or lead sheets by women composers. It's
Oh
called
my
New
God.
Standards, and that's almost finished.
Wow.
So I'm going to do also a recording supporting that, and my goal is to do actually 10 albums supporting this and record all of the songs that are in this book
That's amazing.
over the next several years with different people. Not me. I'll do this first one, but um, I want it to be
Mm.
different people so that the composers are
Mm.
what's featured.
Wow. Man, and then
Yeah.
I saw something. You got another project with Diane coming up. I saw something on Instagram, and I think like Somi. It was like a video, like an EPK video or something that you guys
Oh, oh,
released.
oh, that's
Yeah,
a Fatimata
yeah,
Diawara's. Yeah,
yeah.
like kind of you know, African women and women of African descent from
Right,
all over.
right.
Um, so we came together on a piece of hers
Mm-hmm.
called Ambe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's some other things
Yeah, of
going on.
course.
Just like writing, mostly writing. Oh, one thing I can talk about is I'm doing a project at MIT called "It
Mm-hmm.
Must Be Now." It's focused on racial justice,
Mm-hmm.
where Sean Jones and myself and Braxton Cook are
Oh, nice.
co-composing a large piece,
Yeah.
multidisciplinary
Right.
piece. And I'm working on an exhibit actually as well with the Car Center in Detroit.
Wow.
Um, that's it's not just an exhibit; it's really a project with different dimensions. It's called the Jazz Without Patriarchy,
Yeah.
project. So there'll be performances, it'll be an exhibit, it'll
Yeah.
be essays and
Wow.
curriculum. And
Wow. And I saw the TV work. So anyway, you don't get much sleep, I'm certain. But no, I just with that said, I want to say thank you so much, Terry, like, for even making time to like be on this show. I really admire you, and I'm always watching you. You know, as a mentor. I know we haven't gotten a lot of time together, but just your energy and your life is it's an example. So thank you for giving me a chance to talk with you for a little bit. So,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
yeah.
Anything, anytime, and call me anytime. You've
Oh,
said a couple of times we haven't talked much, so
yeah.
my door is open.
Wow, thank you. Well, I
So
appreciate you so much. I'm going to let you get back to your very busy schedule. But thank you again. I
uh,
appreciate you.
thanks for
Um,
having me.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.
Okay. Bye bye.
To the current audience, that was, man, that was unbelievable. And to have Terry on was just amazing. I want to encourage everybody to please go to her website, go to her Instagram page, go to Facebook. Please check out all these things that she's talking about. She has already, if there's any more new work never created by her, she has so much work that we could spend many years researching and checking out. So please support her. We're going to actually leave you with a really cool recording of hers, but I just want to acknowledge a few other people that popped on, and I want to thank y'all for being here. William from St. Louis, and Jazzy Lady from Chicago. Lenny Robinson, good to see you. Isabella, I see you out there from the Middle East. Michelle Benson, thank you so much, and to others, I thank you for even some of the comments and the notes about those that knew Terry or saw her when she was at Berkeley, and all of that. So thank you to everyone. Lorenzo, thanks again for tuning in, and I appreciate you all, and I look forward to the episode next week. We're excited, but I just want to, as Terry so eloquently put it, I want to pay attention to this incredible moment that we had today, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. So we're gonna play a track from Terry's most recent album with Social Science. And I can't wait for you all to check it out. Thank you again. I'll see you all next Wednesday at 5. Please tell your friends, tell anyone else that you like, or even those that you may not like, but tell everybody about this wonderful show and our opportunity to share with you about from the drummer's perspective with some of the greatest artists in the world. Thank y'all so much. I'm Ulysses Owens Jr. and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah. We trapped in a dream. We trying to wake up. Sometimes it's right and wrong, but sometimes it's black and white. Sometimes they give you paper, but sometimes they give you life. Sometimes you gotta run, and sometimes you gotta fight. Cause sometimes it's right and wrong, but sometimes you could lock me and throw the key, but you can't stop me, I know I'm free. Funny thing, I've been here before, nothing short of a miracle. Hanging bodies on weeping trees, the whole village will come and see. Another nigga is crucified, but that nigga is you and I, it's do or die. Maybe hoping we get away. Mama wishing to see her son, but the officer seen a gun. See the masses incarcerated, won't let you pass on the part you playing. Don't. You could do you, and I could